Hey, Kimberly Ann, good morning and good day to you. In the Michiana area, it is one of the windiest days that I believe we've ever had. And how many of you know that whether it's natural or mental or spiritual or emotional, situational, when the winds of life do come, they stir up and, have everything going in motion and twisting and turning around. And it unveils a lot of things. It reveals a lot of things, doesn't it? Things that you had tucked nicely under something else or covered up. I mean, whatever it is that you were hiding from the winter season, right? And you're like, well, I'll get to it. But, I had some mats laid down because I'm like, oh, that's looking all unkempt. That's looking all crazy. I don't want anyone to think that I'm not, because I am very, tidy. I mean, you think that, right? And so now the winds come and stuff blowing all over. And I had this friend come over. I'm like, don't look. And she's like, I'm not even looking at that, right? So I just wanted to say a few things to you today that kind of has to do with that. I want to show you something that's really fun and really exciting. And so this happened a couple of days ago. And so look. Oh my goodness, look at that. I know, right? So exciting. And so that was this particular chili. And I'm just saying that I've never made anything, well, other than my green bean casserole, which already had a good foundation because, you have your basic green beans and your soup or whatnot. But I've never made homemade chili before in my life. I've never made something from absolute scratch where I went, okay, really out of my element here, but I know I'm supposed to do it. And so I did. And then I just thank Christian Center Church. Winning first place was so cool. And this is not even the subject matter of what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about? You know what the root of it all is? I was out of my comfort zone. I was doing something I know I'm not really that good at all, right? In the beginning of that, have you ever had a time in your life where God said, like you're praying about this over here, and you're like, okay, I see the steps to get to, and God's like, yeah, we're going to dive off a diving board over here. And you're like, what? Why are we going that? Okay, Dad. And so you walk that way. And it's kind of what happened with the cooking with Kimberly Ann. I mean, it was a moment to be very transparent and go, wow, I feel like I'm supposed to stretch myself in this area so that I could reach the folks that were very involved in cooking to show them that, you know what, in all of life, you may be out of your comfort zone. You may have not so much skill you think in that area. Maybe you don't have what everybody else has. You don't have the best kitchen. You don't have the most skill. You don't have the most money. You don't have all this notoriety. You know what I mean? But you are an individual person who's saying, I'm willing to stretch myself and come before folks that might identify, can identify, would identify. And they were willing to say, wow, you know what? If she's willing to be stretched in an area that she knew when she flipped on the camera that, come on, I was not the piece de la resistance and all of that. And that's the only French I know. I'm just telling you. But I knew that it would be encouraging. I knew that God was going to encourage some folks. And if you watch the cooking shows, I pray you've been encouraged. They're coming back in a couple of months, or I'm sorry, I took a couple of months kind of off, and now they're returning now. But it was the beginning of the year. I was going to start again in January. But I'm saying I started that about October or November of last year. And I'm like, I just knew I was supposed to do it, stretch myself. And so then I did. And you just don't do something like that unless you know or have a big conviction inside that God was up to something, right? And so the whole point is that God's like, you know what? If you just obey me on a thing, you have no idea what the end result is right now. And it's not even your business. It's not even for you to know. You know what was for me to do? All of that internal work and the getting rid of maybe you're self-conscious about or worried about, or I can't be that transparent that I'm not, all about that, right? So that's what most of it was about for me and my love for people. And so I'm on this journey right now. And again, I'm not saying too much about it right now, but I will. And I know I've said that a few times, but there's a purpose and a reason for that. And I just feel like sometimes when you run with a vision, you just run. And a lot of people will talk about the vision and talk about the vision, and then they never quite run, or they run halfway, or they get all that about the vision, and then everybody starts jumping on it, whether, oh, great, so, hey, well, where's the evidence? Or other people will down it and bring negativism to it. And then if you even cut out all of that, what everyone else might be thinking, is just for yourself. Sometimes we expound on the vision so much, and this is this thing that I know I'm supposed to do, and then you put all your energy into talking about what it was you were supposed to do, and you didn't really ever do the hard work of doing it. Then you feel pressure just to get it done, and then it's watered down, or it's weak. You know what I mean? It's not to the depth that it was, because you just wanted to get it done and go, I did it, and you weren't willing to dig and to be the archaeologist of your own life, or allow God to do it. I mean, the cutting, the slicing and dicing, and that goes out and this comes in, and really viewing and looking at, all the stuff that if you were honest about it down to the core and willing to be transparent completely, then the thing would happen that it's been on my heart. I just cry because I think about it all the time. And the more I go along in life, I'm like, I really want to touch the most hurting of the hurting. You know what I mean? A lot of people say they might like to help a leper, but they really don't want to touch a leper because they don't want to get leprosy. You really might want to go minister to the most wounded, but what I might see, I don't know if I could stomach it. I'm just saying, I'm giving you a couple scenarios. I'm not saying that that's what I thought. I'm saying that in life, sometimes that's the way it goes. And you know what, to really help and minister to the most hurting of the hurting, it's not about you. It is not about who knows. It's not about a million things that I would say 99% of sometimes big movements or things when they happen are all about. Like, they have to have certain things in place, and they're like, well, if this and this and this and this aren't happening, and we got X amount of this going on and X amount of that support or that kind of money, that kind of, they have all their ducks in a row before they, dive off into the diving board. And then it was like this big thing that was all about them, and what it was supposed to be about was all the hurting people that no one wants to touch. No one wants to hear their stories. No one really wants to get all that involved, because, wow, it might mean that you'd have to get into their mess too. Do you know what I'm saying today? Does that make sense? And so I really, my heart has been for such a long time to really touch the most hurting of the hurting, and in many of the ways in which throughout my life, and I just said this phrase to God today, and I don't know if you'll understand it, but I'm going to say it. I actually opened up my journal, and I'm like, what can I, this is what we do with God. I'm like, what can I share with him out of my journal that just would be, and they'd go, wow. And God's like, I didn't ask you to do wow. Right at this moment, I said something to him, and he said, say that to them, and I think someone will understand it. And I was like, you know what, God, I feel like, when I was born, and the life that I entered into in our particular, family situation and whatnot, my son knows all about it. I talk with him about everything. He's just so amazing, and been raised like 99% differently than I was. But I said to God this morning, I said, I feel like I was born into this board game in which everyone was busy playing while I was paying. They were playing and I was paying for that. And my big thing in sharing and being completely transparent is that I don't ever want to bring upon anyone else dishonor. And you have to make sure that inside yourself, that all of the spiritual surgery that is needed to take place there are going to be things that we're always going to need help with as we go along. I'm going to give you an example in a minute of someone else. And just in my going through all this and God leading me into the very thing he wants me to do. And he's like, and by the way, you know what I mean? It's like what do you want to say? You live in a house that's constructed very well or whatnot, and then you're like, I want to go help other people build houses. And God's like, awesome. And that's exactly what I've designed you to do, all to the glory of God. And then you're walking out the door and God went, come here for a second. And I'm like, what? And he's showing you all the corners in your house. And you're like, oh, I thought we were, and he's like, we are. That makes sense. But so I'm sitting there and God just spoke that to me. And I'm like, God, you know, many times in our lives, there are deep things that are the result of, and due to no fault of your own, things that you were just born into or brought into in a certain maybe situation or family with deep issues and major dysfunction and strongholds and things like that. And you carry some of those, you know, into your own life. And so just one thing that God said to me recently, because I felt like I was constantly going, God, I just want to make sure, because once it's out there, it's out there. Or, you know, once we go down this road, we go down this road. And God said, well, you know, you need to be as 100% transparent about yourself as you are about anything and anyone else involving your life in this subject matter. And oh my goodness, right? And you think that you're willing to be until he just says it straight out like that. And you knew there was a need for that, for him to say that. And so I'm like, oh, Lord, right? And you know that when you're completely transparent, you leave yourself open to everything. See, you see how I start to, I get so, that's just part of Kim. Woo! I get so excited about a point. My glasses start steaming up. Just be something that happens forever in my life. And so, yeah, I guess that's all I can say about that right now. But let me give you this example, and it might make some sense today. And this is what really triggered this ministry moment. I wasn't even going to do one today, and I was having quiet time with the Lord. And on Kimberly Ann Ministries, we're doing a, it's hot. Sorry. I'm sorry, I gotta fan myself. Paper plates are good for that. Hey, Tyler, there's a paper plate in my room. If you're there, can you bring it to me? If you're not, that's fine. I need a fan. But there's, now I forgot what I was saying. Isn't that me? Oh, look, a squirrel. Oh, is a paper, oh, you got a little fan. Thank you. Look. He's such a, see, this is what you need. You need people in your life that are willing to bring you the portable fan when you're having a hot flash. All right. But, oh, yes. So, on Heart to Heart, oh, that feels so good. Thank you, honey. He's a doll. But on Heart to Heart, I'm right now in the Abiding in Him series. We're on actually part number 6, but the one that aired today on Pulse FM is part number 3. They're all in different stages, like online on YouTube, and then on my website, part number 5 is up there, 1 through 5, and the introduction as well. But that's been a whole nother thing as well, just amazing. So I was really going to concentrate on that so that I had maybe part number 6 and 7 ready before Monday even hit, so that, you know, because I have a lot of things to do. You know, we're single parents, and then we work outside the home. I'm going to set that fan up right there. That's a little handy dandy thing, isn't it? All right, so I wasn't going to do a ministry moment was my point. I don't want to make this too long. But, so I was listening to this song as I got on the treadmill, and then I was getting ready, you know, to take my shower and everything. And I was listening to this song by the Imperials, and Russ Taff wrote it. And about a decade ago, maybe not that long ago, Russ Taff, as a younger Russ Taff, maybe it was, I want to say 6 years ago, something like that. This is important to say this. 6 or 7 years ago is quite a while ago. Probably more than that. 10? Maybe 10. So he did this YouTube video in which someone was asking him about his life. I didn't even know any of this. And all of this time that I'd been listening to him, and such a dear person, you know, as far as someone that you really don't know, and just dear to me and whatnot. And I never knew that he struggled with alcoholism. I never knew he was an alcoholic. I didn't know. I didn't know the abuse of his life. He never talked about it. He never said anything about it. So he poured all this out, but it was said in such a way, it was kind of like neat and tidy in a sense. Like he shared it, but not to the depths, not everything, and you went, oh, I never knew. So he just shared how he struggled with alcohol all during the years of, being with the Imperials and even the Gaither Vocal Band and whatnot like that. And then touched on a little bit of the abuse of his growing up. And that was an eye-opener. I'm like, wow, well then, and I'm glad I saw that one first. Well, then it was like, probably last year. And now Russ Taff is way older. I mean, he's got to be, what? I don't want to say anything wrong. Would he be in his 80s, maybe? Something like that. I mean, he's an older man now, much. And he had another one where he was sharing about his childhood, and I'm like, he already did that. Oh, this is a new one. Wow. Well, this is right now. And he just cried and blubbered the whole time. He turned himself inside out. It wasn't the neat and tidy box of, well, I struggled with this, and yeah, there was some of this. No, he poured it all out. And he was like a little boy. He shared all of the wounds, and then you're like, oh my goodness. And he did share how so many close to him, they showed nothing but grace in the middle of his whirlwind tornado of being an absolute complete mess. While he was writing these songs about God and all these clever lyrics and meant them all and they were real, but he was struggling himself with God. He shared how during all that time, I mean, he was, of course, trying to provide the elixir for the pains. And then he had these questions, about God. And because of the way he was raised, because of the example that wasn't so great that his dad had portrayed and whatnot. But the point is this. It was a totally different deal, and it hit you a totally different way. The other was like, okay, wow, yeah, I mean, we all struggle. The other one was, oh my, zip me apart too, and inside out we go, because he did not hold anything back. And for a minute, when you're not used to that, you're like, oh, well, how, you know what I mean? It takes you off guard. And it wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong. But we get so used to, well, if I am going to share deeply, I still want to make sure it's in a pretty box with just at least a little bit of a bow. I wouldn't want to be completely transparent. Well, why not? Because in the end result, it shows that God is the one who does it all. And he is the answer to it all. And God gets all the glory. And yes, we live lives where we get wounded and daggered and messed up and screwed up. And then we do a whole lot of that ourselves. And a lot of it because of, you're still dealing with things that had happened or been done to you and whatnot. And, you come out of it and God, he really teaches you, can I say this, how to live in absolute freedom in which you're not holding unforgiveness at all. And your heart is compassionate even to the ones who have wounded you in a way that they had no right to do so. You see what I'm saying? And then having had knowledge of the Lord, I mean, he really shows you ways in which even after you came to him, you still walked on and dragged some stuff. You're just dragging stuff like, those cars where you see the strings and the tin cans behind it. You don't know what's going on behind you. Maybe you didn't know and they were still attached and somebody else is seeing all the clanging and wanging and, they're not even seeing the pretty car because, and it's stuff you've got in not even your rear view mirror because you don't want to talk about it or know about it or whatever. But I'm just saying that for some, if God is leading you into something and I don't know, whatever area it might be to, to minister to or heal the most hurting of the hurting, well, I mean, God is in charge. God is the answer. He gets all the glory. And it's not about us or having a platform or, sharing to the deepest depths, but we still look pretty about it. Really? Okay. So that's all I can say right now. And I've got things that are in here and I've got a computer absolutely full and I have a heart that's absolutely full. And listen, God is still preparing me and I just don't think that certain things are something you just jump into so you can go, hey. And so if you really, really, really want to be effective or to do what God has created you to do on the deepest level, he's going to go to the deepest level, and you got to go with him. If he's going to go scuba diving into the depths, he's like, you better put on the snorkel in the tank. What? Can't you just go down there without me? No. No. Right? So I'm still in a place of archaeological digging. And so that. And it needs to be as beautiful and transparent and honest and real as possible. And your eyes are only on Christ. So back to, as I'm getting ready, I'm listening to this Russ Taff song, and you might remember it, and by the Imperials, anytime that you want me, I'll be there, anytime, do 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 do, you know that song? And I was telling my son about it. I'm telling you, I listened to that song like when I was growing up, even when I had no relationship with the Lord. I grew up, because we have that music. And then after coming to the Lord, which has been since 1990, I've always loved the Imperials. I've listened to that song 1,000,000 times, if not more. And I'm thinking, today I finally heard what he was actually saying. The whole time. I get it when he said, something about, when my highest goal had reached an all-time low, I was trying to find a way, but found no way to go. And then he met a man, he's saying Jesus, and he said, come with me, and showed him who he was. And then, God was saying, hey, I'm here for you anytime. And then the rest of the song, and the chorus is, anytime that you want me, I'll be there, anytime at all, da da da. And is along that whole lines saying, no matter where you go, you call out to me. Anytime that you call, I'll be there. Anytime that you need me, I'll be there. My entire last, what did I say? Since I came to the Lord in 1990, I thought that he was saying, God, anytime that you want, I'm there. Anytime you need me, God, you got me. I'm there, right? And that's not what he was saying at all. No, it's not. Go look at the lyrics. And how did I miss that? I'll tell you how I missed it. And maybe you've missed it too in some area. And I'm not saying you were trying to be wrong. No, you weren't. But what we understand about what God is actually telling us and what we receive also from other people and exactly what they are telling us has a whole lot to do with how you hear it, has a whole lot to do with the filter with which it's coming through. And I had a particular filter that my whole focus was, yeah, God, anything that you need, I'm there. And so missing the deeper point, not that I didn't know God was there, but the deeper point on the deeper level, and God is saying, do you get the whole point of the whole thing, Kim? That whenever you've needed me, I've been there. Whenever you've called on me, I've been there. If you ever hid some stuff or you went, wow, I should have known better, should have been better. Well, I should have learned that. Well, God, we both know about that. And so I'll show you, I'm do anything you want me to do. God's like, wow. I just need you to understand that it's me doing it and that he's there for you. I don't know who this is for. And maybe I'm making a mess of the whole explanation, and I guess I don't care in that sense. You know what I mean? The light just went out. God's saying, time up. But it does matter the filter with which you're hearing something through. And so I guess that's the point today, to really live a life of freedom, is all of that, for all of us wanting to have that removed and healed for all of us. And listen, sometimes we like ministry to be a little bit more neat and tidy than what it actually is. If you're really gonna minister to the most hurting of the hurting, it's not some easy. There are some people really, if you even think of the little children that have been abused in their lifetime, or the little children that are sex trafficked, you just don't go and hallelujah, woo, all right, bye. That's not how it works. And that's not what Jesus does with us. He sits and he enters into it and reveals and shows and touches every area. Jesus touches every area of that pain. And I'm wondering if we're willing to do the same too. So that's my mystery moment for today. And thank my son for the fan. He's just so sweet. See, he was being Jesus to me. All I had to do was go, ah, and boop, right there. No, nothing, just brought it, and so sweet. But pray for me. Just pray for me. Yeah, pray for me, and I'll pray for you, so that we are really used on the deepest level that God has for us too. And, you know, sometimes if I give the example of the scuba diver again, when you're diving down to the real depths where real healing needs to take place, look, there's no cameras and social media there. There's no popularity there. And yeah, I wonder, you know, who of us are willing to just do it. Well, you're amazing. I love you. I love you so much. So pray for me, and I pray for you. So, yeah. Until next time.